Barbara Walters, iconic journalist, has passed away at age 93. I don't think I should play the clapping emojis. Now, I'm going to read to you from ABC News. It reads, Barbara Walters, the trailblazing television news broadcaster and longtime ABC News anchor and correspondent who shattered the glass ceiling and became a dominant force in an industry once dominated by men, passed away Friday. She was 93. Excuse me. Walters joined ABC News in 1976, becoming the first female anchor on an evening news program. 3 years later, she became a co-host of 2020, and in 1997, she launched The View. Bob Iger, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, which is the parent company of ABC News, praised Walters as someone who broke down barriers. Barbara was a true legend, a pioneer not just for women in journalism, but for journalism itself. She was a one-of-a-kind reporter who landed many of the most important interviews of our time, from heads of state to the biggest celebrities and sports icons. I had the pleasure of calling Barbara a colleague for more than 3 decades. But more importantly, I was able to call her a dear friend. She will be missed by all of us at the Walt Disney Company, and we send our deepest condolences to her daughter, Jacqueline, Iger said in a statement Friday. In a career that spanned 5 decades, Walters won 12 Emmy Awards, 11 of those while at ABC News. She made her final appearance as a co-host of The View in 2014, but remained an executive producer of the show and continued to do some interviews and specials for ABC News. I do not want to appear on another program or climb another mountain, she said at the time. I want instead to sit on a sunny field and admire the very gifted women, and some men too, who will be taking my place. Barbara Jill Walters was born in Boston on September 25, 1929, to Dina and Louis Lou Walters. Her father worked in show business as a booking agent and nightclub producer and discovered comedians Fred Allen and Jack Haley, who would go on to star as a Tin Man in the classic film The Wizard of Oz. Growing up around celebrities taught a young Barbara a lesson that she relied upon throughout her career. I would see them on stage, looking one way, and off stage, often looking very different. I would hear my parents talk about them and know that even though those performers were very special people, they were also human beings with real-life problems, Walters said in a 1989 interview with the Television Academy of Arts and Sciences. I can have respect and admiration for famous people, but I have never had a sense of fear or awe. In her 2008 memoir, Audition, Walters revealed that she got her ambition to succeed from her older sister Jacqueline, who was born developmentally disabled. Her condition also altered my life, Walters wrote. I think I knew from a very early age that at some point, Jackie would become my responsibility. That awareness was one of the main reasons I was driven to work so hard. But my feelings went beyond financial responsibility. Much of the need I had to prove myself, to achieve, to provide, to protect, can be traced to my feelings about Jackie. But there must be something more. The something that makes one need to excel, she added. Some may call it ambition. I can live with that. Some may call it insecurity. Although that is such a boring, common label. Like being called shy, that means little. But as I look back, it feels to me that my life has been one long audition, an attempt to make a difference and to be accepted. After graduating from Sarah Lawrence College in Bronxville, New York in the 1950s, Walters found work as a publicist and television writer before landing a spot as a writer on NBC's Today Show in 1961. She would become the program's first female co-host in 1974. and won her first Emmy Award the following year for Outstanding Talk Show Host. No one was more surprised than I, she said of her on-air career. I wasn't beautiful, like many of the women on the program before me, and I had trouble pronouncing my R's. In her memoir, Walters wrote that she had dark hair, a sallow complexion, and was often told she was skinny. She said her parents' term of endearment for her was skinny Melankindin. I don't know what that means. In 1976, Walters found a new home on ABC's Evening News, making history as the first female co-anchor of an evening news program. In her inaugural broadcast on October 4th, 1976, with co-anchor Harry Reasoner, Walters scored an exclusive interview with Earl Butz, who had just resigned as President Gerald Ford's Secretary of Agriculture after it was revealed he told a racist joke. She also conducted a satellite interview with Egyptian President Anwar Sadat on his plans to end his country's fighting with Lebanon. At ABC, her interviews were wide-ranging and her access to public figures and parallels. Walters crossed the Bay of Pigs with Fidel Castro and conducted the first joint interview with Sadat and Israel's Prime Minister Menachem Begin. She also developed a reputation for asking tough questions. I asked Vladimir Putin if he ever ordered anyone to be killed. She once recalled. For the record, he said no. Upon the death of Castro in 2016, Walters released a statement saying the dictator had called her 2 interviews with him fiery debates. During our times together, he made clear to me that he was an absolute dictator and that he was a staunch opponent of democracy. Walters said in her statement, I told him that what we most profoundly disagreed on was the meaning of freedom. There were lighter interviews too. For years, she hosted an annual Oscar special in which she interviewed Academy Award nominees and was known for making a number of them reveal deeply personal information and even cry. In 1994, she launched the Most Fascinating People special, which aired every December and afforded her the opportunity to chat with the year's top newsmakers. In 1999, an estimated 74 million viewers tuned in to watch Walters interview Monica Lewinsky about the former White House intern's affairs with then-President Bill Clinton. Toward the end of the interview, Walters asked Lewinsky, what will you tell your children when you have them? Lewinsky replied, Mommy made a big mistake. To which Walters quipped, and that is the understatement of the year. Walters also interviewed every U.S. president and First Lady from the Nixons to the Obamas. She interviewed President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump before they entered the White House. With The View, she created a forum for women of different backgrounds and views to come together and discuss the latest hot topics in the news, a format that has since been widely imitated by other networks. Hello. In a May 2019 New York Times Magazine cover story, The View was deemed the most important political TV show in America. Walters was married 4 times to 3 different men. She wed Merv Edelson, a television producer and real estate developer, twice, and adopted daughter Jacqueline Danforth with second husband Lee Gruber, a theater producer and owner. She named her daughter after her sister, writing in her memoir that she wanted Jackie to feel that she too has a child because I knew by this time she never would. She keeps me sane. She keeps me grounded, Walters said of her daughter. Children do that. I think a lot of working women struggle with the job of being home, and there's never a right answer. Whatever you do is wrong, but whatever you do will turn out eventually to be okay. She was honored in 2001 with a wax portrait of her likeness at Madame Tussauds in New York City, and in 2007 she was awarded the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She was also the recipient of honorary doctoral degrees from her alma mater, Sarah Lawrence College, as well as Ohio State University, Temple University, Marymount College, Wheaton College, Hofstra University, and Ben Gurion University in Jerusalem. After 25 years in television, she was inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame in 1989 and was presented the award by Peter Jennings, then the anchor and senior editor of ABC's World News Tonight. In all the years that Barbara has spent covering the world, those of us who have moved along in her wake have done better because she was there first setting standards, and she has taught us all something. Jennings, who died in 2005, said at the time. In 2000, Oprah Winfrey echoed Jennings' speech when she presented Walters a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Had there not been Barbara Walters, surely all of the other women who have followed in her footsteps, including myself, could not stand where we stand and do what we do in this industry today, Winfrey said. In her acceptance speech, Walters said, "I have been blessed with a life I never expected. And helping me up the stairs of the ladder over the years have been hundreds of people." Part of ABC News headquarters in New York was renamed the Barbara Walters Building in May 2014. During the ceremony, Walters accepted the honor, saying, "People ask me very often, what is your legacy? And it's not the interviews with the presidents or head of states, nor celebrities. If I have a legacy, and I've said this before, and I mean it so sincerely, I hope that I played a small role in paving the way for so many of you fabulous women." And there you have it. Barbara Walters has passed away at the age of 93 yesterday. Now, I am going to give my opinions. I know that was a long read, but Barbara Walters, regardless of how you feel about her, she is an icon and will always be one. Barbara Walters, in my opinion, changed the way interviews are done. If you look at how interviews were made, let's say, or conducted in the 50s, and even in the early 60s, it was very cut and dry. First of all, it was done by basically all white men. And it was like, well, such and such and such and so has said that you are the free leader of the new world, of the free world, and such and such. How do you feel? Do you believe that you will beat the Soviet Union in going into space first? Such as things of that nature. It was very cut and dry. It wasn't, it wasn't really as captivating as it became. It wasn't as, how can I say it? It wasn't entertaining. Barbara Walters made interviews entertaining. Even if you didn't like Barbara Walters as a journalist, you would watch it just so you could be mad and say, "You see, I can't stand her. She always nitpicking. She always got to ask a silly question." When she asked Katharine Hepburn, "What kind of tree are you?" And Katharine Hepburn responded, said, "I see myself as an oak tree." People dragged her for that for years, the oak tree. Or the blind couple, which she said is actually her favorite interview. I'll never forget, she said, "Touch the palm of his hand and ask what you see. How do you see him?" And my aunt said, "You see, that's it. I can't take this. You know what? I can't stand her. Oh my God, I can't stand her questions." Or when she was really interviewing celebrities, because I know that political leaders, she wouldn't really get into their real personal life unless they did something scandalous, like Richard Nixon. When she asked him, "Should you have burned the tape?" And he said, I believe so. Not, yes, I should have. I believe so. Because, Tricky Dicky was, on 2 anyway. So he still wouldn't own up to it. But with celebrities, she would go deep with them. Like, for instance, with Monique. That's when Monique first talked about her brother, abusing her as a child. And that's when other celebrities would talk about their drug use. Celebrities didn't do that before Barbara Walters. Celebrities, you didn't know anything about a celebrity's drug use unless they got arrested for possession of drugs. You didn't know it. But with Barbara Walters, celebrities that were around from the 60s and upwards, you knew their business. Not all their business, but you knew a lot of it. And she would get them stories, but she was good at getting information. And now all the journalists that are out there, they follow I would call the Barbara Walters method. Just ask the questions. You got to get a story. You got to get the grit of the story. And the thing about Barbara Walters didn't lie. See, the thing that you could say about Barbara, she did have journalism integrity. Now, the thing that I will say, the woman has, transitioned. She's on the other side, because I don't believe anybody dies. That's how I feel. But the thing about Barbara Walters, that the one thing that did bother me was when Corey Feldman was on her show. And he was talking about the people that harm children in Hollywood. She did not like him speaking about that in his book. But the reason about it was very interesting. And she said, because you're talking about my friends. And Corey Feldman was like, so? They were bad people. If they're bad people, they need to be called out. And that's when Sherry Shepherd and even the other lady, I can't think of her name, Jenny McCarthy, they felt some kind of way because they have sons. And they also have sons who are disabled. Like, I don't want to say disabled, but they're like developmentally delayed. And children of that nature are a lot of times the most vulnerable victims when it comes to that type of abuse, because they don't have they're not quick to fight back like a child who is what they would call mainstream, regular, up to par on, learning standards, developmental standards. So that bothered them a lot. And that was the one thing that I would say I looked at her different from that. But other than that, as far as her being a journalist, she was good at her job. She was. And she's iconic. And the thing about it, I think people are romanticizing over Barbara Walters because she comes from a generation where the world was still somewhat innocent, The world was still, you still had, even though she was an interviewer, she comes from a time where you still had privacy, family was everything, still like in the 70s, 80s, 90s even. I would say even the 2000s. But we're entering a time period, or now we're in a time period where everything is right there. Everybody's business is exposed. And the world is not pristine clean. Everything is provocative. Barbara Walters worked in an era where people still, you could say conservatism was big. I don't know what her politics were, but conservatism was big. Now it's basically, everybody does what everybody wants to do. And so it's like for people who are iconic, or not iconic, well, people who are iconic, but people who were big in the 20th century and was able to transition and live in the 21st century, it's a big deal that somebody from that time period had passed away who was iconic. So I'm not going to, blame them if they're like saying, oh, I just so loved her. She was one of a kind. She was groundbreaking. She was in that. Hey, that's their opinion. People have a right to feel a certain kind of way. For me, I think she was a talented journalist. But I do think that some of the things that the whole thing with Corey Feldman was the only thing I had an issue with. A lot of people also said Michael Jackson. Some people said, there was another person, but some people said, I can't think of the name. But that was just the only thing for me. But she did good on her job. She was iconic. And I don't think there will be, at least in this time, there won't be another Barbara Walters. There'll just be somebody who will come up and carve their own niche. But she was one of the first women to break it and make it big as a anchor on a national level, not just on local news, national news. Okay, so that's something that you have to remember. It was national. So that's the whole thing about her. She's a renowned journalist. And with that being said, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for listening. If you haven't done so, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and I'll talk to you soon. Later.